Where's that baby? There she is.
Everyone pretty much knows my story. They watched it here. Some even witnessed it firsthand. They seen the struggles that I faced, the depression that I went through, the hell, addictions, and demons that I had to face and remove. My story is just one of many stories. There are more out there. Fathers go through this all the time. This is the dark side of fatherhood, where your stories matter. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of Dark Side of Fatherhood. I'm your host, Nakashawan Yashala. Today's guest we have coming on is my brother, also from the ISUBK, Priest and Officer Yaradan. He's going to be discussing his situation and what's going on with him. But before we get the show started, I will first like to say thank you to all of the supporters and subscribers. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I want you to keep this thing alive. So please please comment, please subscribe. All right. And with that, let me bring up my brother.
Shalom. Yeah, about Shem Shabrak. That was going on, Warrior.
Hey, Shalom, what's going on? So how you feeling?
I'm all good.
All right, listen. Now, you know the crux of the show, you know how this goes already. I wanted to first say Thawada to you. For those who don't know what Thawada is, Thawada means thank you for joining me here, coming onto this platform to share your story. You know, of course, your story matters. But tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Officer of 5,000 Yaradan of the ISUPK under Commander Jenny Yohana. I come from Chicago. I was introduced. What's up?
Shot Town.
Chi-Town, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was introduced to the truth actually about I say about 8 years ago.
Mhm.
You know, and man, it's been life changing for me, man. Like a lot of things and a lot of my story is based around that transition. You know what I'm saying? Even, I know we're gonna get into depth with the relationship with my children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And
So, I won't dive right deep into it right now like that
mhm.
first, but I just wanted to get the little bit tidbits out the way first, because again, it's a show first, but it's a show more so about awareness and brotherhood. And it's the first of its kind, so we appreciate you coming on. So let me get into this first thing real fast. You do have children, obviously. How many children do you have?
I have 5 kids. My oldest is 20 years old. My
Damn, you got
she
a 20-year-old?
Yeah, I got a 20-year-old. Yeah,
Damn.
for sure.
Damn.
Yeah. So you gonna hit me with the Don Cheadle?
Yo, y'all were down as soon as you said it. I was like, God damn, really? 20? I mean, geez, all
Yeah.
right. I got you. Sorry, brother. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all good. My daughter, she's my firstborn. She's 20 years old. My next up is my son. He's actually a officer of 50 in the school.
Oh, most high praise.
True, Officer Rakam Yala. He's 16 years old. Then I have Sanaa. She's 15 years old. Then I have Bria. She's 10 years old, and I have a 2-year-old Nasala come.
Damn. Most high in Christ. Most high
Yeah.
in Christ. Now, of the five, there's how are you able to see all the five, or you're getting jammed up with one of them?
So I'm seeing four on a regular basis. My 20-year-old, we have an estranged relationship. You know, so whenever she comes around, we spend time like that.
Yeah, man. Daughters, man, they need their fathers, man. They really do.
For sure.
And that relationship, just to segue for a second, what do you think it means for a daughter to have a father? Like, the importance of it. Like, if you just could describe it in your words, how important is it that a daughter has the father in her life?
I think honestly, I was just talking to a good friend of mine, a brother in the world, earlier, what I'm saying, and he was telling me about some situation with his daughter.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost the most pivotal thing in a young girl's life to have a relationship with their father, because that's essentially, what I'm saying, gonna almost dictate the relationship that they have with their husband. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't realize as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that the relationship between a male and a female is essential, what I'm saying, we in the jammed up space.
Yeah. How old were you when you first became a dad?
I was 22 years old.
Damn, 22 years old. Do you remember the feeling of what it was? Walk me down the path of, the time when you got the information, when it was revealed to you. What
Mhm.
was going on in your mind as 20-year-old you? Like, what was going on in your mind?
So I mean, I believe the first thing that triggered in my mind was, what I'm saying, like, oh, it's real, what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's real. So, like anybody else around that age, we figuring things out, and I didn't have a set job. I was working temporary work, so it was like, man, it's like it's real now. Like I got to really, I got somebody really dependent on me besides me. I always just had me to take care of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, and when your daughter was born, do you remember that feeling? Like, like we just you gave us what happened before it happened. What was the
Mhm,
initial feeling of seeing the child for the first time, holding the
mhm,
child? Because I tell this story about how I held my daughter. Like, I was scared, and I was bigger, and I was
mhm,
I was jacked. But I was
mhm.
holding my daughter, and I was scared. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, "Yo, I'm just too big." So
Mhm.
walk me down that feeling. Like, what were your initial feelings?
Yeah, it's similar to that because yeah, like I always been a bigger guy as well.
Right, right.
So it was a feeling of being like, saying something holding something so precious, saying, something so delicate, saying. And then there was also a feeling, man, like my daughter, man, she was the most beautiful thing I ever saw in my life, saying.
Yeah.
When she was born, like she, just seeing that whole process, man, it was life changing for sure.
Were you good with diapers? Were you on diaper duty?
You know what? I will say with my daughter, I'm like I got a 2-year old now, so I'm diaper dad now, but but back then,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna give myself that one free. So I was, I'll fill in when I needed to fill in, but it was really, what I'm saying, on my mother to handle most of that. I was, in the warehouse, what I'm saying, like even around my daughter's birth, like I told you, things got real serious where I had to lock in and get a, what I'm saying, a full-time job. So
Yeah.
I was in the middle of the process of earning my job. So I was on a probational period, what I'm saying, during that time. So I had to have my daughter, and it was right back into the warehouse, you know what I'm saying?
Damn. Yeah. So would you say, is it safe to say that when you had the child, like you kicked into another gear?
Oh
Would
yeah,
that
for
be said?
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's off top, you know what I'm saying? It's just like I said, it's like all I had to depend on was myself. So, I was living it up, taking
right.
trips, going everywhere, and it was when I had my daughter, it was lock-in time.
Yeah, so let's go backwards a little bit, and
Okay.
then we'll start from the beginning and then make our way here. So
Hmm.
this 20-year-old version of you, um,
Hmm.
you're you're with a woman at this time, you're in a relationship, the child is
Hmm.
born. What's the story there? The how you met her, and
Hmm.
then what happens next.
Okay. So how I end up meeting her, well, like I told you, I was doing a lot of little temporary work and little temporary jobs. So
Right.
I had a job assignment And what we call down here Navy Pier is like a, it's like a section close to downtown, right off the water. So we were both working at Navy Pier, and at just a temporary slot, like right around that time. I believe that was, I want to say that was like 99, 2000, somewhere around there. Yeah, that's how I ended up meeting her. You know what I'm saying? So we started to date, what I'm saying? At that time I was only like 18 years old,
Mm.
and no, I was actually 17 when we met, but 18 when we started to date. And she had like, I think she had like 7 years on me, so she was around 25. So that's how that started.
So so things are going good. How long were you guys together? Let me start there.
Okay, so like I said, when we first got together, I was 18 years old. And you talking about the duration of our relationship, or how long we was together before we had our first child?
Yeah, like the totality, like before the child. Let's just start there,
Mhm.
before the child.
Okay, so we started dating when I was 18, and then we had Jasmine, my oldest, when I was 22. So that was 4 years after that, and then 4 years after that, we ended up having my son, we're come y'all. We had him when I was 26.
Okay, so it was cool in the beginning. You guys are
Mhm.
dating, everything is fine. When did you notice that it started to get rocky? And can you give us a little insight on what was going on at that time?
So honestly, when we first started the date, it was cool and we had a good rapport as friends, but we never really had a good chemistry. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of got rocky off the bat. My daughter coming into play, and this is when Christianity comes into it, because both of us was her more than me was heavy into Christianity. So when we first got together, what I'm saying, we engaging in different things of that nature. And we had the conversation, and I mind you, this is way before the truth or anything, and we come to the conversation of sex and sex being marriage. Like, even just me reading the Bible, it just was obvious to me that sex was marriage,
Right,
and she was a stipulator about marriage in a formal sense in America.
right.
So that was the beginning of the angst and the things when it started really getting rocky.
So when you say the Christianity kind of played a factor, can you explain to the viewers what you mean by the Christianity started to affect it a little bit because they may not understand the lingo.
Okay. Yeah, so what essentially happened, right? And it's like, we young, we having sex with each other, and we she feels like, we have to get a piece of paper marriage.
Right,
Like we have to be legally married in American society. And I'm telling her the whole time, because I'm reading the Bible and I'm deciphering the Bible. I'm like, look, it sounds like sex and marriage. I'm showing her the
right,
scriptures and everything
right,
that sex is marriage. Like, Adam and Eve didn't have a piece of paper to dictate, what I'm saying, if they were married or not.
right.
So, of course, that's the most simplistic, but that, like I said, I ain't know nothing about the truth or anything. It was just simple to see in the Bible that sex was marriage. So the way that Christianity played a part is she felt like that what we were doing was wrong the whole time, and that, what I'm saying, that if we didn't have that piece of paper,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, that it wasn't going to solidify our relationship.
Yeah, so from a Christian lens, her outlook on certain things came from a Christian background, meaning
Mhm.
okay, she viewed marriage as the paper, where
Right,
biblically, like actually in the Bible, it says, "Hey, listen, sex is marriage according to the Bible."
right,
So the
exactly.
So did the differences after that get a little bit worse where you couldn't really convince her as much?
So what ended up happening essentially is I kind of conform. I just conform to like what she wanted. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at it like, okay, I got this daughter. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and do it. You do things the way Christianity is telling us to do it. Even though I'm reading in the Bible and understanding what it is, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just handle it like this, and maybe then God will bless what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it really got to the point to where, the sexual chemistry, like I said, the sexual chemistry was never, what I'm saying, aligned. And, it really started to show, what I'm saying, later on down the line when we would have these back and forths about sex and marriage and different things of that nature. So, honestly, it's just like the beginning of our marriage, what I'm saying, it was rocky. We was barely having sex, even when we did get the paper marriage.
Damn,
Yep.
that's that's heavy. Was
Hmm.
there was there a time during that period? This is after the child, you were still
Hmm.
with her, that you lost the joy of being a father. I understand from the
Hmm.
perspective of the spouse
Hmm.
because I can hear it like, okay, that is gone, that ship is sailed, but
Hmm.
you're still trying to
Hmm.
sacrifice and make it work. That's what we do, right? But
Right.
was there ever a time that you lost the joy from being a dad in the same way, and what was the moment that happened?
Okay. So, I would say like right around the time my son was born, I started to realize like my speak just to go back though, my daughter, what I'm saying, she had some medical issues, some neurological issues where she was having some seizures and stuff. So those times was really rough as well. But when I had my son, what I'm saying, and I realized like the relationship with me and his mother it just wasn't coming together no matter what we would try. What I'm saying? Like it just never gelled. So when I started to realize that, that's what really started to hurt, because the thing in the back of my mind, with both of my kids, is being able to walk into their room, look at them sleeping in the bed and feeling like I can do this every night. And I did not want to lose that. But I knew the relationship with me and their mother was not going anywhere. You get what I'm saying? So that I would say at that point, I really felt like I was losing, you know, the joy of being a father. It was more just around around just being there. You know what I'm saying?
So at some point, and I believe I heard it correctly, obviously,
Hmm.
um, fatherhood started to become f- like a 9 to 5 as opposed to it feeling more meaningful, like how we all thought it was going to be. It started
Right.
to be like I'm clocking in, and
Mhm.
this is it. I wouldn't say a burden. I'm not going to say a burden, but
Mhm.
it does change the dynamic of the way you feel, especially when you're going through so much turmoil.
Right.
Was there
It's,
ever? I'm
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, you go
No.
ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So the hardest part is just getting to the point to where it's like this part of your life is exactly what it needs to be. The children are
Right,
who they are, and they do everything, and they fulfill everything that they need to fulfill on their side.
right,
But her not being what I needed her to be, what I'm saying, and probably even vice versa. I'm not gonna just put all the blame. I'm young too. I
right.
had I ain't have any understanding of what that relationship was about. You know what I'm saying? We was learning on the fly. So, but like with that coming in between that, what I'm saying, that's what kind of took the joy out of being a father, because like, I mean, you always enjoy being around my kids and seeing my kids, but when you realize that you had children with somebody, saying that you really wasn't compatible in that way, it takes the joy away from you.
Mm. There's a idea. Well, it's not so much as an idea. There's a saying that men cry in the dark, right? Which
Mhm.
is something that we hear all the time, and most times, we never can pinpoint the moment. Was there a time as a father during this particular time period that you did cry in the dark, and do you remember that moment?
You know what? I'm kind of different in a way that I don't so much feel pain in that way. I kind of express my pain by almost like clocking out. You know what I'm saying? So like my mind just like even sometimes I think about it like what like where was I at? You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
just lost track of everything. It was just like every day was about work. Every day was about, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, walking in there, seeing them kids laying up in there. And it's just like I zoned out. Like I was like a robot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and that was for a good portion of my 20s. You know what I'm saying? And this is, the time of your life, you know what I'm saying, that everybody say like you supposed to be living it up, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking like, man, I'm
Yeah.
making all these sacrifices in my 20s, man. This is not what's happening.
Yeah, there's another idea out there that, and that's why I'm really glad that you said that part, because that you're not the first brother to say it. This since we started doing this, brothers have been saying what you just said, which was, you supposed to be living it up,
Mhm.
but you're going through this. A lot of times society believes that we're having a good time, you
Right,
know, but we're not. We're
right.
really not. So could you take us to the time period where you're not seeing your daughter and what that feels like around this time?
Okay, so the time period, what ended up happening essentially, like I was talking about how the relationship was going. So what it essentially ended up happening was, I end up being with more females. I guess from a payback standpoint, she ended up being with a man, and I left. You know what I'm saying? At that point, when she dipped out on me, I was done. And so she moved back with her father, and she would play games to where I couldn't see my kids for long stretches and periods of time. You know what I'm saying? And during those times, you know what I'm saying, I would say those were some of the darkest days that
Mm,
I had, was because of course, and this is when I'm in the world, when it
right,
come down to holidays and Christmas, I got toys and stuff for them. And
right.
no, you can't get them today. And, you can't see them today, come and get them next week, or, just playing games, out of whatever, hatred she had built up for me and different things of that nature.
What kind of struggles did you go through? Did you have to go through like visitations, custody battles, things like that, or was were you allowed to see your daughter, but just couldn't get her?
So what ended up happening was, like I said, it would be times to where she allowed me to see both of my kids, because I had two kids with her,
Right,
my
right.
son and my daughter. So it would be times to where she would allow me to see him, and then there'd be stretches that she wouldn't allow me to see him.
Mm,
So during one of the periods of time to where she wasn't allowing me to see my kids, or she was allowing me to see them, here and there. When I call, it's like I was like my kids is the most busiest kids in the world because they always got something to do every weekend.
right, right,
And I've been, working in a warehouse since I was like 18 years old. So I'm like, 6 days a week type, you know what I'm saying? And, so I only have the weekend. So that's the only time I can come and get them.
right.
So during that period of time, they were staying near where my mom was staying. So my mom rolled past a park one day and she saw him out there playing in the park.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Come to find out, what she was doing is she was going to work and leaving my kids in the park to play all day.
No, no, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so when I found out that information, I gave her a phone call and I told her, I'm like, I don't know what you got going on, but won't you allow me, what I'm saying, to, at this time I'm in the truth. So I'm trying to deal with her diplomatically. So I tell her, like, what I'm saying, whatever you got going on, just let me have my kids until you get on your feet or whatever the case, or get things together. And then once you get that situated, then you can have the kids back. She told me it wasn't gonna happen like that. And I was like, I'm not really giving you a option with this. It's like, you either comply to what I'm saying, or we're gonna have to go and deal with it with the courts, which we know, what I'm saying, as black man, no black man really wants to have
Right,
to go to the courts for anything. You know
right.
what I'm saying? So she denied. She was like, I ain't never gonna give them to you. So you do what you got to do. So I did.
Damn. That just from a protector standpoint, right? Because that's our job to
Hmm.
protect from a protector standpoint. As soon as you said that, like I felt that.
Hmm.
Like I felt it. I felt the part where you said that your children out of some just just miracle, they just became busy all of a sudden.
Hmm. You're
You know,
right. Exactly.
these are stories I've heard as well. This is
Hmm.
something that I know. My daughter
Hmm.
became a celebrity within a
Right.
matter of months. I'm like, she got a book signing or something to go to. What
Right. Right.
you
Every
know what I'm
weekend she
saying?
got something to do. Yeah.
Yeah, every week is something, something going on. So I do share that same sentiment, and brothers do share that same sentiment with you. But I want to ask you a question that I'm sure is going to resonate a little bit better now because you're older, you're very different than when you were before. You're in a different mentality and mindset. If you
Mhm.
can go back in time to talk to you before you had the child, what advice would you give you back then? What would you tell you?
I would I would say even before the child, before I lay it down with that woman, you know what I'm saying, that it should have been like, what I'm saying, like the vetting process, like it was. I think Captain Marvel Quad just said this, like, what I'm saying, like brothers, like we in the truth, so it's a
Right,
little different with that. But back then it's like red flag after red flag popping up, pop up,
yeah,
pop up, all these red flags popping up, and you ain't thinking about nothing but that body. You know what I'm
right,
saying? You ain't thinking about nothing but
right,
how things look, you know what I'm saying, instead of, really focusing on a person's mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really found out, like, what I'm saying, my ex-wife, she's a terrible liar. You know what I'm saying? So
right,
even before I had sex with her, you know what I'm saying, I would tell my young self not to, what I'm saying, even have sex with anybody without vetting them properly.
right. And during the time that you were going through what you were going through, would
Hmm.
you say, I know you did claim a little bit of ownership and accountability.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you say the responsibility as far as accountability was a 50-50 thing, or was it 80-20? And if so, what would that percentage look like, and what would you do differently in that moment? What would you tell you to do in that moment differently?
Well, I mean, of course, you know what I'm saying, us being in the truth, you know what I'm saying, we understand now, you know what I'm saying, that, what I'm saying, sex is marriage
That's
and,
right.
it's no divorce. So how I would handle it differently, and as I see, I wouldn't have been sneaking around and dealing with other women. I would have just got me another woman and
Right,
just added her to the fold. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been, the sneaking around and, and hiding. I wouldn't have went that route, you know what I'm saying? And I actually, it did get to that point later on in our relationship, but that's when the whole payback, saying, scenario ended up happening. And, I think I would have handled that the same regardless, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah,
Through
that part.
through the time period now from then, what's one word that you would use to describe you back then, and one word that you would use to describe yourself right now?
Okay. I would say one word to describe myself back then was confused.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Because you know, basically it's like, I believe I always had a heart, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like in the scriptures it's talking about, you know what I'm saying, the true nature, or we are or we had the zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. So I would just say confused, you know what I'm saying, in that sense. And then what I would say, as far as me right now, is solid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm solid on, my mindset about my children. You know what I'm saying? Even though still things ain't perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, I do have an estranged relationship with my daughter, and that hurts.
do you think that your daughter's mother, if I had asked her the same question, that first let me preface it by saying this. The question is to decide if a person has grown over the years. There's
Hmm.
also an idea that, we don't grow up. But with you, just the definitions alone show growth because you're not the same man that you were then. You're not even the same person. You're somebody different. If we were to give her the same question, will there be a different answer, or do you think the timeline is the same?
No, man, I honestly think, sadly to say, man, because, honestly, I have no ill will to the sister and different
Right.
things of that nature. But at the same time, I still feel like, even her actions right now is still in the childish sense. And like I said from the beginning, she had 7 years on me. So if
Yeah.
she ain't matured by now, it's just like, it's a rough go.
And that was the perfect answer. And like you knocked it out of the park because you did the first thing you started off was with there's no ill will.
Hmm.
I know I don't feel that way. The two previous brothers I had on, same response. Like it's
Mm,
it's always the same type of response. Even when if we had this conversation around brothers, that's the first thing we will say because there isn't any ill will. There
mm,
isn't any. We just kind of think about, and I'm sure you may agree, we think about the betterment and the position of the child. Like that is what's
right.
more important.
Mm.
So you have an estranged relationship with the daughter. You're able to see the son though, at least, or no?
My son lives with me.
Oh,
And that's up on another part that we didn't get to with the whole custody battle. When we actually did have, saying the court cases. You remember I told you, I told her when she told me to just do what I needed to do.
yeah,
I did take her to court about my kids, and I got custody of both of my kids at that time because she had an unstable environment.
yeah, solid. God damn, that's heavy, man.
And that's big up some to my new rib as well. You know what I'm saying? She was working at as a paralegal in family law at the time, so it was like the perfect situation. She helped me with all the paperwork I needed to do to receive my kids.
Damn, most high in Christ. So everybody's together.
Mhm. At that time, yeah.
Oh yeah, but okay,
Yes.
yeah. Damn. All right, so let's segue somewhere else real fast, right? It's probably be the last two things that we kind of touch on. But again, I want to thank you, Yaradan, for coming on here. Um,
Sweat, Breeze.
the the
When I
next,
saw
oh,
when
go
I
ahead. No,
saw
no, go ahead.
no, when I saw it, I was like, man, that's something heavy that brothers need to, lock in on. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this was an excellent idea, brother. And believe me, I've been seeing the work you've been putting in. So big ups to you as well for the work that you're putting in, man. Because these things is essential to what we do as priests. You know what I'm saying? Just being a comforter to brothers that may go through the same, or it might be just going through the same situations we face.
Right. And that's and thank you, Tawada. So I appreciate the words and like Tawada to them and above me, for all of the counsel that I had to get from them too, to
Mm,
to become the man who I am today, or who we are
mm,
rather today.
I'm right.
And I
I'm
pray
right.
that other brothers come on to the platform. You can reach me at Nakashawan 144. at gmail.com to tell your story as well, because your story matters. How did you pull yourself out of the funk? I heard you mentioned your rib with the paralegal and the family law. How else did you pull yourself out of that funk for the viewers at home who are asking the same question? Like how did you do it? Because a lot of times brothers don't know. They'll see a situation, go, damn it, how did you get that? Because you did it through the court, and a lot of times we don't have that faith or belief that it works in our favor. But how did you do it? How did you overcome at least that part of the obstacle?
So, and all in all, I would say, you know what I'm saying, I would give all credits in the Most High in Christ, man. Like, I can't take any credit for it because, like I said, like, I've made mistakes throughout my life, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, if I, what I'm saying, just go off my mentality, my mind, I'll probably be somewhere in the gutter somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It ain't, so it's nothing, what I'm saying, me personally doing, but I will say that the Most High, if you put your faith in Him, you know what I'm saying, then all these things start to come together in your life. And that's what I, what I'm saying, what I realized me, myself as a man, I stopped trying to put my faith in even into different women and different situations, what I'm saying, money, different things of that nature. I stopped putting all of my eggs in that basket and just gave everything to the Most High. And when I did that is when everything started to come into place.
damn. Most High in Christ.
For
Wh-
sure.
What what advice would you give a brother watching this right now? What advice would you give a brother who is either about to become a father or is going through the same things that most of us go through? What advice would you give them? What kind of words would you give them?
So even like the most essential advice I would give a brother, it would probably even be before. Hopefully, it come before,
Right,
having a baby or come before, because it would be to be, what I'm saying, extremely careful.
right.
What I'm saying, who you have your children with. What I'm saying, what I'm saying, be protective over that. What I'm saying, that would be my first, what I'm saying, stand of advice to a brother, what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, these things is it can change your life, man. Like, what I'm saying, like you would not believe, what I'm saying, just who you decide to lay down with, and I know, beauty is a thing, and all of that, all of those things that we look at, and just being man, but you have to be extremely careful on who you lay down and have sex with and have a kid with.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Mhm.
this is a brother telling another brother. So if you know somebody out there, share the clip with them. Make sure that they know, like, we are brothers that are here to help.
Damn
And
right.
again, a lot of us go through this. A lot of us do have these moments in the dark where, you can't see a kid, you're hurting because you're the protector and you want to do your job. And there is no worse feeling than not being able to do that for the thing that you help create.
Damn
Um,
right.
lastly, before we go, we do a little segment here called the letter in the bottle. And
Mhm.
the letter in the bottle idea is you put a letter in the bottle for the person that you want the letter to go to. They find the letter and then they read it. So if you had a moment, you already talked about your experiences, the things you had to go through, the fights, the struggles, the bad times, some of the good times. If your daughter just so happened to stumble upon this, what is something that you will want her to know that she doesn't know now about you, period, how you feel about her? And I'll give you the floor.
Right. So if I could like, just do a time capsule and throw that in a bottle, I would say what I would tell my daughter, what I'm saying, my oldest, is that, what I'm saying, that I love you, today, just like the day that I seen you, what I'm saying, come out of your mother's womb. And I would tell her that the perils that we go through in our relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything that I've trying to give to her was to build her up to be the woman that God wants her to be. And that's the reason why I made every decision that I made as far as our relationship.
Damn. That's that's heavy. That is heavy. Hopefully, um, this will get out more, and I pray that that message gets to her and she receives that letter in the bottle because that's important. You know, you're a part of her legacy, and you're leaving, not even leaving, you're continuing the legacy as well. But yeah, that I hope that letter hits. I hope it reaches. But what else you got going on? I know you guys got the round table of truth out there. Tell the people where they can find you and you
Mhm.
know all the channels they can follow you guys at, man.
Okay, yeah. So just like the brother just said, we have the Round Table of Truth podcast. It comes on every Friday night at 8 p.m. We shoot live, I'm saying, on Facebook, on YouTube, I'm saying, click and subscribe the Round Table of Truth on all those platforms, TikTok, the whole nine. Also, I'm saying, I do apparel as well. I'm saying, so if you want any of the shirts that you see, I'm saying, on the Round Table of Truth and all over Israel, you can go to diversecitymall.com. That's diversecitymall.com. And check me out and copy you some t-shirts, sweaters. It's hoodie season, and we got me and Yatazar, we got the jackets rolling out. We're going coming into the new season of the RNU Real Nigga University jackets, what I'm saying? The all leather joints is this season. So, what I'm saying, if you want some, just, reach out to me, myself, or Yatazar, and what I'm saying, get situated.
Well, listen, it was a joy and a pleasure, sir, to have you on here
I'm right,
to
bro.
share your story and also to let the world see something that they think is just a myth about black men, which is that we don't care for our children, we don't
Right.
feel we're stuck in a rut or we're having a good time. You told the story from beginning to end, and the story is still going. The story is still continuing, and it was a very heavy story, and I'm glad that you came on to share that story with all of us. So I do appreciate it, sir. Thank you, Thawada. Um, Again, if any brother wants to come on to tell their side of the story, which is what this platform is for, you don't think that you can get help, we do give free counsel here. That is something that is available to you depending on what city you are in. Again, if you want to be a guest on the show, it's free of charge. You can email me at nakashawan144 at gmail.com. I'd like to thank Priest and Officer of 5000 Yaradan for joining me here tonight. Be back here in 2 weeks. We'll have another guest on. I've been your host, Nakashawan Yashala, and this is the Dark Side of Fatherhood. Take care. Have a good night.